Hello, welcome everybody to the People and Projects panel. I'm feeling honored to have wonderful panelists here. Some of you might be known. Gary, Erik, Professor Andrew Wooton, Bruce. We will focus on the built environment security and try to find out where we're going with digitalization and advancement of new technologies. I'm often told that security systems are underutilized. In some cases, as little as 5% of functionalities are being taken advantage of by the end user. If so, are they even worth investing in? Or is the high-tech bubble about to pop? Erik, you work with cloud-based security solutions that most of us, I believe, would class as high-tech. You've been in this industry for like 20 years. Yeah, you've seen a lot. For example, the CCTV changed from analog cameras to digital cameras. When it comes to upgrading security system in a building, you would ordinarily start with security risk assessment, operational requirements. What is it that people most often miss?
Yeah, as you say, there are a lot of things to think about in choosing and designing a security system. And me with the tech background compared to some of my panelists here, I'll speak from a background of CCTV, access control and intrusion, which is my area of expertise. And the most common thing I see around this topic today is that a lot of people, and I'm happy to see the other topics here as well, on missing out on the crucialness of working with cybersecurity and cybersecure systems in relation to physical security, because there is a correlation in between them. The other part is lacking in selecting a system, lacking in looking at the user experience. And then I mean both the UX design, how users can work with it, how integrable the system is, how easy it is to customize based on what you need, but also from a user standpoint with the people moving around the facilities. Just a simple example, for example, using mobile credentials to move around the facility instead of having an access card will greatly increase the possibility of your staff not forgetting their card when they come on site and not holding the door open for a friend that lost their card or maybe was let go yesterday and shouldn't be in this area. Yeah.
So you are like a nerd, aren't you? In a positive way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you love the security systems, the technology, don't you?
Yes.
So tell us about the AI. The AI there's a lot of talking about AI, how it makes a difference in the physical security.
Yeah, it really is, right? And it really is a buzzword of the industry at the moment, or the world, right? I mean, half the stock market value in some areas of the world is composed of companies working with AI. And as you mentioned in my introduction here earlier, having seen the shift from analog to IP in cameras and having seen offline access control systems sitting in one place, never playing with the real world or sort of touching reality until after the fact, there is a lot to consider in AI, but it's also important, I think. I mean, I use it daily nowadays. I use it for helping out in programming small, simple things. I'm not a good programmer by any means, but I use it together with my kids to generate fun images or songs. I use it to summarize news and articles and subjects. I use it to generate images I use in PowerPoint presentations, and it's fantastic. But at the same time, when it comes to my day job or my business, it's important to remember that we've seen overselling of technology in our industry before. We all, or many of us in here, remember 15, 20 years ago when the first video analytics companies started popping up, and how great are they today, but how oversold were they 15 or 20 years ago? And I was partly to blame for that. So, one thing that sticks with me when it comes to selecting a security system, it's we need to remind ourselves constantly that we cannot always be at the forefront of technology, even though it breaks my heart to say it. Our industry, we work with planning for potentially the worst day in someone's life, which we hope never comes. And we can't just run into technology like some other industries can. But that being said, on AI, my advice is to look at it as an assistant. Use it for intelligent automation, or sort of, instead of letting it do the decisions for you, it will augment you and make you into a better person. Much like we see the criminals mentioned by the previous speaker. They use it to open up, they vet out leads and throw away the garbage and then leave the golden nuggets.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Erik. Professor Wooton, Andrew, your expertise is in human-centered design, right? So you bring that perspective to crime prevention through environmental design, both in the United Kingdom and internationally. CPTED has a long history, and not everybody is aware of its latest development. I know, Andrew, that you work on several research and development projects that innovate the security as we know it. What current trends look most promising for designing effective security?
Thank you. I think just to reflect on what Erik was saying, I think AI is very much a sort of like a modern day slide rule, and potentially it has the benefit of being able to support just decision making generally and just support the human aspect. So clearly it is potentially a security threat, but also it can very much be integrated in the way people work normally. But what I would say is that as technology advances, the importance of understanding the human aspect is only growing. And to develop and implement any security solution, you need to understand the problem and its operational context. And to do this, understanding the human aspect is critical. And too often we see security solutions, especially technology-centered ones, they can fail to meet expectations because they're not grounded in a rich understanding of end users and their operational context. So overly technology-focused solutions risk not being deployed or operating as intended because frontline end users don't consider them to be of value. And we've seen this in relation to work we've done around predictive policing. And technologists, while well-meaning, may lack empathy in order to get the sufficiently rich enough understanding of operational context and how end users deliver and how they value their roles. So they may inadvertently produce solutions that users perceive as undermining them in some way, sometimes in quite subtle ways, like feeling their professional status is being eroded. And our work uses social science and humanities research methods to support the human-centered design approach. And key to this is engaging human stakeholders in any problem context, particularly frontline security practitioners. And research shows that involving all end users in framing problems and in prototyping solution design options, you're much more likely to produce a practical output that could be implemented successfully. So the systems thinking expert Russell Lincoln Ackoff famously pointed out that we fail more often because we solve the wrong problem than because we get the wrong solution to the right problem. And focusing on the wrong problem is something that proper engagement with end users will help you avoid.
Thank you for that, Andrew. You talk a lot about the human aspect. We are all different in so many different ways. So we're talking end user. It's like a very general term, isn't it? End user. Who do we mean by end user, and what exactly you mean by human aspects?
So there's demographics that you need to consider: age, gender, ethnicity as well for inclusivity. But also there are aspects of the human psyche that we all carry around with us every day. Pride in our work, feeling of making a difference, the feeling of having knowledge and experience that's valued. Aspects like these influence how any human will respond in a given situation, be they a security professional or a customer or a passenger in a queue. And that when a new process or a way of working is introduced, then soft human aspects like these can play a role in whether it performs as expected, whether what they say it's accepted or not. And human-centered design seeks to understand, where possible, and take advantage of these human aspects in order to enhance rather than potentially undermine security solutions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that, Andrew. It's really a pleasure to be talking to you about this. Gary, you are a seasoned chartered security professional, which is the gold standard of professionalism in the industry. You currently conduct research on close protection for your PhD, right? We know that the fear of crime affects health and well-being, stress, anxiety, inability to concentrate on your actual job. Whatever it is, whether it's administration, management, whether it's sports, or whether it's politics, the fear of crime has a detrimental impact on our day-to-day performance and productivity. How do you make people feel safe?
Well, there's many variables that you would put in place to make sure they feel safe. So you have to be completely transparent with your clients. You have to communicate very, very effectively. I think every plan has to be completely personalised to the individual to ensure that it fits in with their lifestyle and it does keep them safe. I think your level of professionalism, your level of expertise, there has to be a big emphasis on discretion and respect, and that in turn will build trust with them. So I mean, I use an analogy of a Disney hug, right? I think some people might have heard it recently. The Disney hug rule is when a child hugs a character in Disneyland, the character doesn't let go until the child does. So if you use that analogy towards security, so when I have an initial assessment with a client, I don't ever close the meeting. I let the client close the meeting. So with that, you're building that rapport. So you're actively listening to your client. You're not trying to sell them something you have. You're selling them something they need. You're building empathy with your client. With that, you're building a rapport. With that, you get influence and trust, and then you can kind of establish that behavioural change. Now, the amazing thing is that's how you build trust with a client. That's actually the behavioural change stairway model that the FBI use for negotiating.
All right.
So everything can be. It depends on what way you look at things.
Yeah. So how good are we with this? It takes a lot of emotional intelligence, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You have to be able to read a situation, and I mean, sorry to all the gentlemen here, but I think females are an awful lot better at reading emotional intelligence cues than we are. So we have to work at it, but it is a skill, and you can get better at it. It's like listening. Most people listen to reply.
Yeah.
They don't listen to actually hear.
Yeah. All right. So there's nothing supernatural about it, some instinct thing. It's something that it's actual skill that you can learn.
It's an absolute skill.
Yeah. So how good are we with that, with reading people's emotions, with building that trust at the moment? Is there anything that you believe that we could do better?
We are getting better, and look, as I said, it's about having those personalised plans for a client. So if you're dealing with a client, you're not only dealing with the principal or the protectee, you're also dealing with the family. You're dealing with the children. Yeah. And it's acknowledging their emotions, acknowledging the empathy that they have, and understanding the threats, and the fact that a threat can go up and down. I think what the teams we use always, we very, very rarely say no to a client, so that when we do, they do listen to us. You don't try. It's like dealing with a child. If you say no all the time, it just becomes no. Yeah. If you say, let the small things go, but then when you actually do say no, then they do listen.
They will listen then, yeah. I will take that back home, that advice, thank you. Bruce, you are another seasoned chartered security professional, head of security consulting for Buro Happold. You work on many prestigious built environment projects around the world. How common would you say is like a really good, decent, thorough understanding of security risk management amongst property developers or managers?
Honest answer? Not really. property developers, managers, architects, they all have their own specialisms in the whole process. And I have to be quite honest about it, that security doesn't feature too high on their list of agendas. However, if you change that word from security to safety, all of a sudden you have their attention. And so how we tend to deal with things is we don't design security into projects purely with the emphasis on blockers and barriers and CCTV and access control. We work very, very closely with our people movement team, our specialist lighting teams, our ICT technology teams to provide a properly rounded solution. And going to what Andrew said earlier on is that people are the most important thing when it comes to security, because not only are they the people that, not only do they influence the delivery of security services, but as everyone knows, behind every single security threat is a person. So people-centered design is what it should be about. And unfortunately, if you're in the speculative property market, people are just looking for the biggest return that they can get. I will put some cameras here and there. That'll do the trick. But why are you putting them there? What is is that actually an investment that's worthwhile, or are you just throwing money down the tubes? So I think that our biggest challenge at the moment is getting those developer, architect type stakeholders to understand that whilst we may be providing security to them, what we're actually delivering for them is public safety. And that is the story we need to tell.
Yeah. It's sometimes just semantics, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is what? They obviously overlap. Are you under the impression that we, as security professionals, sometimes are doomed to succeed? It means that if we get our job done right, then nothing happens.
Well, again, I think going back to the initial panel, talking about stakeholder engagement, very, very important. And I can't emphasize the importance of security awareness campaigns. If everybody in a business thought about security the same way that people think about safety, we'd be in paradise. It doesn't happen, unfortunately. But if you look at instances, and I'll use an example of a fellow CSIP, Frank Cannon, who used to be down at Hinkley Point. He made more impact through security awareness programs on that massive big construction program than any access control or CCTV or anything like that. You know, things like creating he emulated the American pack of cards for that they used in Iraq, but he used it for security awareness on site. Now you've got a site with 10,000 odd people working on it, and you run those effective security awareness programs, then you're going to, people realize then, because it's in their mind all the time.
Yeah, keep that momentum going and just keep reminding people it's not just one-off method, it needs to be constant. Just very quick summary, if you were to give one practical recommendation for the real estate managers to get the balance right between technology and behavioral science, what would that be?
Well, it's my thing, as I said, if you read the rules of security, the Yellow Bible, as some of us refer to it as, security is all about people. And if you don't build your security programs around people and how people behave and how people react, then you're wasting your time. Yeah. The investment has just gone straight down the tubes.
Thank you, Bruce. Andrew?
Well, I think that technology and behavioral sciences are not really in opposition, because if you combine them well enough, you get insight from both, and you actually get what we call good design coming out of that. And I think if you had one thing to talking about developers, say, it would be to consider issues relating to security as early as possible when you're planning and designing a new development, because we know how expensive it is to retrofit things, and also how you're building in flaws or potential weaknesses all the time as you're making design decisions. So, I mean, 20 years ago, we worked with Greater Manchester Police to set up their design for security consultancy, who give advice to architects and developers on, on specific issues around developments in Greater Manchester, and they're tailored to the type of development and the location. So you can get expert advice about the security risk as you're doing your development work.
Yeah, from both the technology and social sciences, humanities. Yeah.
And then you know how to apply the right solutions.
Yeah. Andrew, what's your view on that? How do you get the balance right? Erik.
Yeah. Again, I'm gonna be the tech nerd in the bunch here. Then, and of course, it's focused around people, but in my mind, if I need to have something that people bring away from here as a piece of advice, and we can discuss later, it's to remember to select a system that will allow you to change and adapt over time. The user experience we touched on before, it needs to be a place, a technical system where people can work from anywhere and on any platform that they want, because the state of change is sort of ever increasing in our industry. And make sure you select a system that's open and integrable and can play well with others, and where you can switch in and out of components and systems that you need at the moment. Because the way people are working today, if we think back 10 years and then another 10 years, some of the technology we sold and installed 20 years ago is still up and running. And how much has the world changed since then? So make sure you have something that can grow and adapt with the needs of your organization, because the hardware will last longer than the rate of change.
Yeah. Thanks, Erik. Gary?
I came across a quote recently, and it says, as our infrastructure becomes more interconnected and more dependent on AI, the consequences of these technologies being compromised or misused become more severe. And that's Bruce Schneier from Harvard. And I think what Bruce said is absolutely critical. It's about the people and the technology and how they interact together. I mean, could you imagine if Microsoft Excel went down today? How many accountants would be suicidal? In reality, if the internet went down, like the internet now, 50 years ago wasn't part of our critical national infrastructure, it is now. I know in my house with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, if the internet goes down and I have no YouTube or no Netflix, it's going to be carnage.
Right.
So I think it's having that balance of, either a culture correction or a culture creation of using people and technology together. It's not either people or technology. I think someone said, will AI replace people? No, it won't, but it will replace people who are not using AI.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.